Time for the Bearded Men of Real Estate. I am Ray, and this
And
is
I'm Dan. Hi guys, how are you?
Dan. We're both real estate agents. I'm in Central Arkansas. Dan is in LA. No, that is not Lower Arkansas. Dan,
No.
where is LA?
It's a newer city. It's called Los Angeles, and it's in California, Southern California.
That's right, Southern California. So we're both real estate agents. We do this BMORE show normally on Thursday. Look at this already. Madeline's chiming in. It's not Thursday. That is true. So I guess we have gotten people. I mean, it's our 14th show. We're not exactly weekly. We're like bi-monthly-ish.
Kind of bi-monthly.
So we normally do record it on Thursday. We have been trying to move this for a while on Wednesday, but our schedules kept messing up, and so we'd have to go odd times on Thursday. So it looks like the Bearded Men of Real Estate show will now be on Wednesdays. Tim, he already likes it. So thanks, Tim, for chiming in. And like you see those guys doing, if you have a comment about the show, if you want to give us any feedback or something like that, please do comment. I will click a button and it will display that comment for all of us to discuss, especially when we get into the news. That's what this show is really made for. We originally started this show because we were looking at all the news and events and what was going on in real estate. We were talking about it in mastermind groups. And then one day we said, hey, we should talk about these things together.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about them anyway, and kind of talk about how they affect or impact our clients and other agents, and just have some fun with it. So that's where the Be More show was born.
I do have one question, Ray.
Yeah.
Why is it called Bearded Men of Real Estate?
Well, that's a great question.
Right?
I don't know.
Hmm.
We have been getting requests for people to be on the show. Tim is one of those. He is working on a beard, perhaps.
He's have to have a beard to be on the show.
Yeah. Jackie also, she's working on it.
She's working on her beard.
We'll see what we can do. So it'll be a lot of fun.
JB is here in the office with me. He's working on his beard. You can't see him though. He doesn't have a beard yet.
Okay. Well,
he's trying. Look.
Is that really a wait? Let me go big screen so people can see.
I mean,
I see a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
It's taken me 3 months for this. I'm getting there.
Nicely done. Elizabeth said fair housing. She wants. I don't think beard or non-beard is a protected class. Well,
nope.
Actually, females are, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, let's. Without further ado, let's get into the headlines. You ready?
I forgot to bring up my sound effect.
I may not ever get those sound effects. It just works too well in this. Okay.
Yeah.
So without further ado, U.S. pending home sales rise in February. So contracts to buy previously owned homes rose in February, the National Association of Realtors said on Wednesday. The NAR's pending home sales index increased to a reading of 107.5. That's up 3.1% to the prior month. January's index was revised to 104.3 from 104.6. The economist polled by Reuters had forecast pending home sales to rise 2.1% last month. So pending home sales contracts are seen as a forward-looking indicator to the health of the housing market because they become sales 1 or 2 months later. So in our market, it's generally about 30 to 45 days. The home resales surged in February after 2 straight months of declines, but a chronic shortage of homes remains the obstacle for more robust housing market compared to 1 year ago. Pending home sales were 4.1%. So 2.1% versus 4.1%. Or actually, it's 3.1%. It rose 2.1%. So it's
a good jump.
1% off from where it was last year, which is not as far off as I thought it would be.
Yeah, and all the doom and gloom we talk about with there's no listings, and we talk about the surge in new home builders. More people buying that. So this is a good thing for resales. And then we have another story. I know we're not going to do this one in the deep dive, so we can kind of touch on it here, but we have another story coming up. I think it'll be the fourth story that kind of can add to this, and we'll give you tips and tricks on that in the deep dive.
Way to tease something later in the show. Look at you. It's like you're old bro. Good grief.
I know. It's weird. 14 episodes in, and I'm starting to figure this out.
That's right. So I'm wondering if these resale homes that are being sold, the increase in resale homes, I wonder if that's people that are settling for the builders not being able to keep up. There's one area in our market in particular that's almost approaching 2 months supply. And I've been told by an economist that a 2 month supply means that builders are having a really hard time keeping up. They can't get the labor, materials, and land in time. It's not just a pricing thing anymore. It's a time thing. So I'm wondering if the resale homes going up is also an indicator that the new construction may be super robust, but may not be what it could be due to the lack of supply, lack of inventory.
Exactly. And if you think about it too, if someone's ready to move now, and I'm sure this is a similar, you have different weather conditions and stuff, so it's probably easier to get through a new home build in California. But all the new construction that I've helped buyers get into, I mean, we get everything settled, and then it's 3 months. So you got to wait 3 months. So if you're trying to sell a house, and a lot of people are selling and then buying right now, maybe that's going to have this is just off the cuff. There's, again, as always, Dan, there's no stats to support this. This is just me thinking that it's possible that, if they want to be, they're ready to look now and they want to close in 21 to 35 days. It's possible that new construction, it just won't work. They can't close that quickly.
Right. Cool.
All right. So we got next, and we've kind of teased this one in past. We've talked about luxury, most likely taking a hit in the future. And this is, I think it was a couple months ago we talked about this, and we've talked about it in a couple shows, but now it's actually happening. New York's luxury real estate market is in correction. Not a very fantastical headline, but it's very, very poignant based on what we've been talking about for the last couple months. Real estate sales in Manhattan plunged. Okay, there's your bitey headline. They plunged. And this actually is a plunge, 25% in the first quarter from a year ago, as the new federal tax law, stock market swings, and a glut of luxury condos spooked buyers. Sales in the first quarter posted their largest drop in nearly a decade and reached their lowest level in more than 6 years, according to a report from Douglas Elliman and Miller Samuel. There were 2,180 sales in the first quarter compared to 2,800, almost 2,900 last year. Prices are also under pressure. The average sales price dropped 8% compared from the same quarter last year. So an 8% drop on, $2, $3, $4, $5 million home, that's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, and like you said, we have been talking about this for a long time. There's been downward pressure on luxury home sales in our market for probably 1 or 2 years at least. And we are seeing more luxury homes sell last year than the year before by a long shot. And I think that's because of the pricing. There was a certain amount where people were okay with pricing, or there's a certain kind of a price point where people were okay with, but the supply was such where it was a 14, 15, 18-month supply in some markets. Yeah. So if you had an 18-month supply, the buyers were in no hurry. I had somebody ask me about one of the houses that we had on the market. As they were writing an offer, the agent said, I just can't figure out why this one's set on the market. I said, because you have an 18-month supply. I mean, there's no hurry. The buyers are in no hurry. The sellers are trying to figure it out, but they don't want to go that far down. And so the more downward pressure they have on their pricing, the more of them will sell quicker, because those who are in the move-up markets will start to see a compelling price. And if it's compelling, then it's going to be selling, as the guy from KCM says.
Oh.
Yeah, that was good. That wasn't my quote. I wish I could claim that quote. It wasn't. But
yeah,
the price isn't compelling, the home's not selling. So that's for the market.
That's an old saying. If you rhyme, people are going to listen all the time. So that's just, it's an old saying that I just made up.
It's got to be true then. Okay, next. U.S. subprime mortgage. Dun, dun, dun. U.S. subprime mortgage bonds are back in fashion. So the issuance of securities backed by riskier U.S. mortgages roughly doubled in the first quarter from year over year earlier, as investors lapped up assets blamed for bringing the global financial system to the brink of collapse. A decade ago.
The brink of collapse or collapse?
I think that's what I was reading that. I was like, well, it kind of did collapse.
Yeah, I don't know if we were on the brink. I think we went full on collapse.
Yeah, I think it went full on collapse.
Yeah.
So home loans to people with scratches and dents on their credit histories dwindled to almost nothing in the aftermath of the crisis, as litigation worried lenders retreated to patch up their balance sheets. Over the past couple of years, a group of specialist firms began to bring the loans back, navigating the dense web of new rules drawn to protect the borrowers and investors in the $9.3 trillion U.S. home loan market. Last year saw issuance of $4.1 billion of securities backed by loans that would have been called subprime before the financial crisis, according to figures from the Inside Mortgage Finance. With the pace picking up in the latter half of the year, the momentum has continued to 2018. Deals worth more than $1.3 billion in the first quarter, and then twice the $666 million issued in the same period a year earlier. So, yeah, roughly more than half of what it did last year. What do you think about this subprime stuff? We were kind of talking post about it.
Do you want to take this, or were we going to deep dive on this one?
Oh, yeah, we are going to deep dive on this one.
We can do another teaser.
You know what? Just don't even answer that.
Yep. Not going to talk about it. Not even going to say anything about subprime.
Just see it bounce back, and we will talk about this a little more in the deep dive. We'll go to some more details on that, but it is very interesting for me to see this bounce back as I've been talking with lenders about some of the new requirements and things like that they have in place. All of them said, well, it'll be back. It'll just be back differently. So maybe that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. And I think we've all seen, as real estate agents, we get random emails that we have no idea what we signed up for, excuse me, or how we signed up for it. But I would say probably about 2.5-ish years ago, I started getting those, 0% down stated income loans kind of thing creeping back into my email. I'm all, So,
yep. And it's usually not local. It was a kind of a clearinghouse type thing, but yeah, we'll talk about more of that in just a bit.
Okay, so this one's exciting to me. This one is homeowners are sitting on $5.4 trillion with a T and an R and an I, and I'm not going to spell the whole thing, $1 trillion in cash, the most ever. So I think we were going to deep dive on this, so I won't go too much into it, but this one's a big deal for a lot of us realtors. So rising home values are making homeowners richer, a lot richer, whether they choose. And let me scroll up so my eyes aren't so low. Whether they choose to use it or not, the amount of equity today's homeowners are able to tap is at the highest level on record, according to a new report from Black Knight. Over the course of 2017, the amount of money a borrower can take out of a home while still leaving 20% in it, which is what most lenders require, rose by $735 billion with a B, $735 billion, the largest annual increase by dollar value on record. This brought the collective amount of so-called tappable equity, meaning what you can get out of your home, to $5.4 trillion, which is 10% more than the pre-recession peak in 2005. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, so
I'll go into it on the deep dive because there's a
this all kind of ties together. But
yes,
so the interesting thing to me about the home values rising and the equity, I'm going to put air quotes equity, is because the equity is only realized upon the sale. So you have all this supposed equity in these homes, but I think the reason why most people aren't selling is because they don't think that the equity is there for them. They think if they were to sell it, it's going to be less. And I think for a lot of people that may be true, but then there's some houses, the really great ones, the ones that are staged well, represented well, I think they'll do very well. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about this some more.
Okay, so let me add that real quick. We're going to do, I want to add it to the deep dive real quick before we move on. We're doing subprime and.
Look at that. Yeah. And we'll talk about this last one too. Subprime and the rates, and we'll also talk about the rising home values.
Cool. All right. I just wanted to add it because my brain doesn't work, so I forget stuff.
So the rates are on the move. In an interview with the National Real Estate Post, Barry Habib with MBS Highway said that there are three things making the biggest difference in mortgage rates. One, the Fed will continue its quantitative easing, not buying as many treasuries and mortgage bonds. Number two, the stock market and the S&P indexes are slated to bounce higher. So the stocks and bonds are like a seesaw with the treasuries. As stocks go up, bond yields go down. So when Oh, it says that right there. I was explaining it, but it says it in the
Yeah,
article.
it really literally says it.
Yeah. And third, inflation is beginning to erase the fixed rate of return. So if somebody has a bond and it's this, here's how much this bond will pay out over this certain amount of time, that is inflation ticks up, then that rate does not increase. So their return starts to go down. And then this third thing, it's called the personal consumption expenditures. It'll report for March 2018. When it reports, it'll erase the March 2017 because it's a 12-month report. So March 2017 was unseasonably low. And this year, you'll see the March 2018 most likely be higher. So that's one of the number one things the Fed watches to see what to do with rates. So instead of the unusually low 1.5%, it'll probably jump to 2%, and the Fed will see that and make another adjustment. So all of that being said, it's definitely not time to panic. However, now would be a time to save some money. The last 45 years, we've averaged 8.25% on the interest rate. So we're still like half that. So if you were going to sell and buy this year, now would definitely be a good time to take advantage of low rates, because when those three things combined, it's almost a guarantee rates are going to go up.
Right. So all these things are tying together, so we can head into the deep dive and then kind of chat about all of them.
Okay, let's do it.
That was, but I gotta say, oh, sorry. Now that we're here in the deep dive,
yep,
I gotta say those headlines were pretty succinct. We kept that really well.
Yeah, we did, and we're trying to be a little more succinct with all these. That way, you guys, if you want to just pop in and hit the headlines in the first 10 to 15 minutes, you can. But if there's anything else you want to stay and chat about, be long-winded about, then that's what the deep dive's for. So, we would really love your feedback as we get into this part. Hello, Danica. Danica says, "Hi, gentlemen."
Gentlemen, maybe one of us, but not both of us.
Yeah, not Dan. Sure.
No.
So anyway, Dan, you can't see it, but I have been loving the Easter effects that I've been putting over your news stories. So you'll have to watch this one.
Are they just on mine?
Yeah, pretty much.
You can put anything. You can put devil horns on me, and I can't see it. All I see is Ray.
Yeah. So let's get into the first part of the deep dive, which is the subprime stuff. So what do you think about the subprime mortgages coming back in fashion, as the article said?
So I say it all the time to buyers, when they ask about, what's it going to be like in the future. Obviously, none of us can predict anything, although it turns out the Bearded Men of Real Estate predict quite a few things if you look back at the history of our 14 episodes. Actually, 13 episodes, and now we're predicting more stuff. So they kind of ask, where's the market at, or how's it going to be in the future? And hypothetically, we need to kind of look at the big picture, is that it should be stronger. We shouldn't have a crash this year or next year, like a crash where everything just blows up. We should never get back to being on the brink, like it said earlier, of collapse. Because everything is hypothetically built on stronger foundation, meaning everyone who has a loan currently should be able to afford it, or they wouldn't have been pre-approved. In fact, I just had to unfortunately cancel with a buyer because we went from one lender, couldn't make it happen. We tried another lender, a broker, and they couldn't make it happen because the underwriters they were seeing too many issues with the employment. So to me, now it's unfortunate that buyer can't get that home, but for the overall sake of our strength in our markets, I think that's how it should be. I don't like subprime mortgages, and I know you're going to have a different opinion on it, probably backed with facts and stats and things. But for me, the less out there, the better. Now, having said that, if it helps people, like as you said in the story, it says dents and scratches on their credit history, or dents and scratches. That's fine. But when it's just straight up, I'm not putting any money down and I can't afford this house and it's a $5,000 a month payment and I make $2,000 a month, okay, we got to stay away from those. But the dents and scratches, allowing those or smoothing those out a little bit, I would be fine with those especially if, and I'll let you do the analogy that we used if you want before we got on live, because it was such a good one. But those, and allow more people to buy and have the American dream and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a positive thing, as long as we don't get carried away with ourselves.
Right. I think the analogy you were talking about was being drunk on subprime.
Yes.
So
that one.
That would be an awesome beer, by the way, subprime. So in my opinion,
new subprime IPA.
In my opinion, whenever the subprime mortgages come back, those that are less desirable, there's a market for it. People are looking to buy them. And so if someone's looking to buy it, if somebody is essentially helping someone else finance, then there should be a market for that. And I don't think that should be as restricted. I'm all about getting rid of a lot of regulation because the numbers will bear themselves out, and either the investment opportunity will go up or it'll go down. And if the properties in themselves are good, then you still have the property as an asset. So subprime definitely comes back in times of increasing property pricing, I guess you could say, increasing sales prices, the increasing equity that we were talking about. There will always be a market for that, because the thought is, well, if they don't pay, we foreclose, and now we have an increasing asset. So in my opinion, I think subprime should have come back about 3 or 4 years ago. Then those who are holding the subprime would have an even better deal, because the appreciation that they've gotten in the assets since they've held it, and then the people that were able to buy the house that normally couldn't. So there's kind of two sides to the coin. A lot of people say, well, people that can't purchase a home, helping them purchase a home is always a good thing. Well, probably. But there's also people that need to be mobile. We didn't buy for a long time. We were mobile. And so we knew that, and we could have forced our hand and tried, and then it would have sunk us financially. So I think there just should be some responsibilities on both sides. Those who are investing in the subprime, the buyers of the subprime mortgages have some responsibility there, but the individual is ultimately responsible. If somebody says, I want to purchase this house, here's what I can do, here's how I can do it. And the numbers, you look at their finances, you look at their history. Yeah, they may have some scratches and dents on there. So you go ahead and give them the loan. It's subprime, and then they don't. Is that the fault of the subprime borrower? No, it's the individual. So I think the responsibility ultimately falls with the individual, and the market will adjust to that. Now, if they're getting subsidies in the subprime market, I don't really think that would be wise. But that's all the subprime has been for a while, is a subsidized market where you're helping people with down payment, you're helping people with loan types, you're helping. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And I think the subprime would be a lot stronger if it wasn't subsidized.
Yeah, we just had one we're opening escrow on that qualifies for 1% down. It's specific areas. I don't know if it's
we have
all over the country. Yeah, if it's all over the country. And I know I don't do any USDA, but you might, and we have our friend Colin who does, that can help with that. So, and it's a great program, but it expired literally on Sunday, or maybe it was Monday. So we had to get, and I don't know, again, I don't know if that's just California. I can ask a lender on that one. But the program expired. And also, I don't know if it was just for this little chunk area where this one, and now they've redrawn the lines, because like you literally look at a map, like this shade of green qualifies, this shade of green doesn't, so I don't know why they're both shades of green, but
there you go. Colin loves USDA. We do a lot of rural development. We have a whole city that is able to be RD loan 0% down.
Yeah. In one of Colin's most recent videos, he has, speaking of video, he's committed to doing one a week the entire year. He spoke about, and I actually watched them, by the way, Colin, I really do. He spoke about areas and cities that all qualify. It's based on a lot of things, but they kind of all qualify in this city or that area. So, and I've never done one. I don't even know anything about them, but
that's a great idea, Colin. I'm going to write that down.
Look at this.
Okay.
I got to give me a whiteboard. So yeah, the scratch and dents in, in your history, those are okay, but we went crazy willy-nilly with it 15 years ago. I mean, we were, you speak about, getting drunk on it. I mean, we were full on hammered and just doing whatever, and then woke up the next day like, oh man, we caused a recession. We shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So as long as there's still some responsibility and some sort of there you go, you can read that comment. As long as there's some sort of responsibility on, I think, both parties, ultimately the individual, yes, but both parties where, both sides of the coin, where there's some accountability to it, and we're not just saying, all right, anyone can get a loan now, whether we should or not. Because if you're close, and there's also something to be said for when you're thinking as a real estate agent, when you have that client that may be close, like we have one now, a little lower on the credit score, could technically qualify with a 20-point increase for FHA, but she wants to go conventional. So we're going to take a month or two and get her there through credit because she has everything else ready to go. So I think there's something to be said for that. And then when she gets there, not only will she appreciate the lender and myself, she's going to really appreciate that home. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, look, Colin is sharing the website. Thanks, Colin. There's the website to find your eligibility. You have to agree to the little thing when you click on it, but then you can find out and see what properties you're looking at are eligible and find the eligible maps for your area. So it's
nice. And go back a comment or two of his. What did he say? Qualifying? It was a really good,
But the USDA budgets have to be reapproved regularly when the piggy bank gets out. Every year they run out of money, and so then they ask for more money. But the USDA, they also watch to see when lines need to be redrawn. And Jackie was saying it's more than area zoning and acreage. I'm assuming she's talking about the USDA stuff too. But and then Melanie said
there's no specifics there. It's just, oh, there you go. So that Melanie's comment bounces off of Jackie's comment. That's pretty good.
Right. So for us, we have a whole city that is USDA rural development. Rural development loan is the other name for it. It's eligible. That's probably the most popular zero down program. But there's also Community Reinvestment Act and stuff like that you can get in urban areas and in dense population areas. You could still get 0% financing. And that's fine as long as things are getting checked out. There's a couple of programs here locally that it's a headache to deal with. They're very, very difficult to deal with. And we're not having much luck. There was one not too long ago where a home was bought and then later foreclosed on. And it's just, some of that stuff is a little aggravating. But like I said, it's not really the subprime mortgage buyer's fault. There's a lot of people that need to take responsibility for their own actions, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, we drank too much Jägermeister 15 years ago and look what happened.
Right.
Exactly. It's always Jägermeister. Why do people drink it? It tastes like black licorice. It's so gross.
It's like the last thing you drink, but you can't really. It just tastes.
Yeah, good. Gosh, I went through the whiskey and the tequila. I guess I'll go through. I'll rip through the schnapps, and then I'm like, oh, all I have is goals.
Save money, people. See, Jackie's even a fan of getting drunk on the cheap stuff.
Wait. Save money, people, or save money, people? Say, what are money people? Save them.
The money people.
Save the money people. They're in danger.
Okay, so what was the other thing we were talking about on the deep dive?
Punctuation is very important, Jacqueline. Homeowners sitting on cash.
$5.4 trillion in cash, the most ever.
What are the most ever? So what I was going to say, and we can even go into the rates a little bit, how they all tie in together. But to me, and again, I'm in Southern California, low or no inventory. I know, Ray, you're struggling with inventory. Colin is out there in PA. Low or no inventory and homeowners are sitting on cash. What if they're not super tech savvy with the Zillows and the Trulias and the Redfins, and they don't know what they're sitting on? Whose job is it to tell them that they are currently sitting on equity? You. So there's a huge opportunity out there. Not only do you, if you have buyers in areas where there's not enough inventory, that's already a subject to go knock on a door and talk about, right? And then B, you can also tell them they could possibly be sitting on at least 20%, if not more, and they can leverage that and purchase another home or sell and move to Arizona or whatever. This is a huge opportunity for real estate agents, I believe. And if you guys don't take this opportunity, I know I'm going to.
So what do you do about the home seller that's like, well, I would love to take advantage of this, opportunity. I would love to sell my house, but where would we go? How are you?
Depends on their area, obviously. But if I'm knocking on their door saying, I have a buyer for you, I can easily tell them, I'm going to do this for you. You're going to become a buyer. I'm going to be doing this exact same thing for you. And we've recently opened escrow on 2 off-market properties through those means. So, and neither are for sellers, but these buyers keep popping up, So in any area, technically, we can say, I have a buyer for you. Or so that would be my pitch to them, is that you're going to become a buyer if you're going to sell and then buy. I'm going to be doing the same thing. Obviously, I'm going to put together a search and preview homes and do all that stuff for you. But I'm going to be knocking on those doors too, because it gives me another reason to look for listings.
Yeah, we had that's going on in our market, the low inventory. So we're finding non-traditional ways of trying to get in front of the sellers to let them know, hey, we have actually got somebody for your house. So we've even been doing the door knocking again. Actually, that's a traditional way. But the door knocking, but we'll do ads in the neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff.
We have one.
Jackie asked a specific question: where are the sellers going, Dan? Very well.
Oh, there's a comma. Good job. Yes. What do you mean? Where are they going? We have some that are moving to San Diego. We have some that are moving from out of our area into our area. Where do you mean? Like,
so
physically?
Do you think this
or is figuratively?
I mean, it's a good question. So I think probably in a time of super low inventory, there is a maybe a movement away from moving is not what I'm looking for, but that's kind of what's coming out. A movement away from moving, where people are not moving casually. They're not moving because, oh man, I like that pool better, I'm going to sell my house. I think this one would be, most people are moving because something has come up, a life change, of circumstances requiring them to move.
That makes sense.
Most people are not looking at their equity, in my opinion, and saying, hey, let's just cash out our equity. Now's a great time, because they know they're also going to be buying in a seller's market. So if they buy in a seller's market, it kind of erases the gains that they're getting. So I think people that are moving are people that just have to move, and they're just having to find another spot, whether it's because they need more space, less space, or job change, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So where the seller's going, I think a lot of them may be trying to find off-market properties. We've had a rash of for sale by owners come up, so I think that's going to be real popular this summer. We have done some negotiating with them and realized that they should have really had representation, but that's beside the point. But we're seeing a lot more for sale by owners in our market too right now, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's another easy conversation to have. We can talk about FSBOs and stuff, but
she's asking specifically where the off-market people are.
So they both fall into, one falls into the category of need to move, meaning husband got a job in New York. That was just timing thing, happened to work out. The other one is it's parents passed away, the whole thing. Grandpa got older, passed away, and then grandma couldn't handle the house, so the house went into disrepair. And that's where you kind of look at those, if you can get those, get into those for the right price for the seller and also the right price for a buyer, where they're not paying top of market because the condition of the home doesn't warrant getting full market value. It gets, you want to get lower, then you want to try to kind of drop that a little bit to make sure your buyer's getting a deal. But those your super sleuthing abilities, that's where you kind of got to smell those out. Or when you're looking at neighborhoods, a lot of times I see them when I'm showing properties. If I'm walking through an area and my clients are looking at the 9 and 10s out of 10s, meaning they're going to pay for them, I'm looking down the street like, because I know a lot of, a ton of markets and a ton of little neighborhoods that are kind of more hidden in all the markets I work, but I don't know all of them, obviously. So when I'm showing properties, that's where I'm driving through. I usually get there to the showings early and I drive around. And when you see those like nice neighborhood, but that one house that's a little in disrepair, go knock on the door, see if you can help them out.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then we had one that we're working on. It's super early stages, but Jacob put together, I won't go through the whole thing because I don't want to give away our secrets, but essentially we got tipped off that they had a moving truck coming by. So we went and knocked on the door. Why, we heard you're moving. How can we help? Kind of thing. Uh-oh, I've lost audio.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Hi. Yeah.
My cough button didn't come back up. So used to back in the day, people would go to garage sales and drop cards because the garage sale was like a sign somebody's, about getting ready to move. So the only problem with that is all the stuff you wind up collecting. If you drop a business card and pick up a couple of pieces of furniture. Yeah,
all of a sudden you're an American picker.
That's right. We want secrets, she says.
Let's see. You get them.
Colin says, Jethro, what's the digital way to door knock?
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean digital door knock? I don't even know what that means, dude. If you don't know who Jethro is, Jethro is a recurring character that we use in our property videos.
There you go. In Dan's property video.
And by the way,
Jethro would offend half the people where because
well, you gotta understand he's an A-list actor and he's Jethro P. Coulter, and you gotta say the whole name, dude. You gotta say the whole thing.
JPC.
Jethro. Yeah. So anyway,
Melanie shows my garage sale approach. There you go, Melanie.
Yes.
All right. So in summation, subprime is coming back. It's going to help other people purchase homes who are not normally able to purchase, thus having an influx of buyers in the lowest third of the market, where inventory is shortest. Then we have homeowners sitting on $5 trillion in ready cash. So if someone is sitting on equity, chances are those are the mid-range, move-up, and luxury markets because they've paid down their home enough, right? It probably wasn't a 0% with closing costs rolled in, paying at or above market value. So those are the homes that have the equity. So we still have a huge problem and a shortage of inventory in the lower third of the market. Meanwhile, rates are going to increase. Rates are going to increase because those three things that we talked about earlier, the QT easing, the quantitative easing, the personal consumption expenditures, which will include March 2018 instead of 2017, and then the stock market and S&P indexes are headed to bounce bigger based on historic returns.
Yeah.
So when those three things happen, rates again increase. So we have a shortage of inventory in the lower half, increasing rates, and a languishing inventory in the top half. What in the world's going to happen?
Nice word, by the way. Languishing. Really, really nice there.
And when I said that word, I felt like that was a good one. Like,
yeah. Like, where did I get that from? But I'm glad I used.
It came to me.
So, and I think Ray and I often say this, but if you're a realtor, we often tell you we're giving you insider info where you can go find the business based on these three things today. I mean, there's plenty of business to be found out here, whatever. And it's all unconventional. You just have to think a little bit outside the box. But you got interest rates are going to go up. So, and you got homeowners sitting on cash, and you got subprime coming back, which can loosen up maybe some of your not so qualified clients. I mean, that's all ways to find business right there. And if you're a lay person, meaning you're a buyer or a seller,
right?
Call Ray or I. Call Dan. Call me for Southern California. Call Ray for Little Rock area. We can even if it's not a buy or sell right now, but we can give you all this info. We're here for that reason. So please reach out.
And this is my pro tip for the pros watching. Look up properties in the areas of the least supply that sold 5 to 7 years ago, minimum 3 years ago. And at least if you don't want to door knock the whole neighborhood, go knock on those doors because they have the equity. So they're sitting on equity, probably got the itch to move a year ago or two, and they haven't. So the question is why?
And I'll give you,
let them know.
I'll give you a couple tips. Jackie wanted some insider secrets. I'll give you a couple tips. One is just what Ray said. You don't have to have a farm of 2,000 necessarily. Some realtors do that. Some realtors, there's different theories. One of the best theories that I've heard of and I've seen work is pick a smaller farm, pick 200, and then hit it every week for 2 months. They don't know that you're not hitting 2,000. They don't know that you're not the entire market. They just see your flyer in your face every week. And usually if you can base it around an upcoming listing, meaning like a coming soon, and then a you're invited, and then a in escrow, and then a close. Like you can base it around those 4 touches and then add a couple here and there. I mean, that's a great way to do that just in general. But if you're basing it around people with equity and maybe they were thinking about a couple of years ago to sell and they haven't yet, I mean, I think you're going to tap into a gold mine there. And then the other thing is, and this is something that I'm currently trying out, I think I've mentioned on the show before, but instead of looking at a farm, if you're picking a geographical farm, in case you don't know what we're talking about, physical area where you go and door knock or drop flyers.
This is not a farm show.
Huh? This is not a farm.
Like
yeah.
People like listening that are like, what are they talking about farms? They got a tractor?
Yeah, the beards and the farms. Wait, what?
I didn't even think about it until you said it. I was like, oh my goodness.
Just in case, a geographical farm where you go door knock or flyer or canvas. A lot of times we have to look at turnover rates. You want there to be a turnover rate in however many homes you pick of 7.5% to 8%, which is a good turnover rate, meaning out of 1,000 homes, there's a good chunk selling. And then you want to look even deeper, meaning you want to make sure that there's not one agent that has 25 or more percent, because that means they dominate the market. That's going to be a little bit more tough to get into. So I've kind of switched the thinking on that. And I found a couple of areas around me that have a very low turnover rate, but those sellers have been there 15 or more years.
Yep.
So they've been paying down that mortgage for at least 15 years, and there's a low turnover rate. And again, nothing's paid off yet, but I've only been trying to do it for a month or two. So that maybe you switch your focus on, instead of, okay, I look for a high turnover rate, and if there were 100 sales in this over the course of the last year, there were 100 different agents. That's great, and you'll probably get some traction. But what if you look for a low turnover rate, but people have been there for 15 or 20 years more? They've just been sitting on it. Maybe they're a little older. Maybe they're, they've been struggling this whole time, but finally they made it through the crash, and now they have all this equity. And now, because interest rates are on the move, to pull back another topic, full circle, now they're ready to sell, and you happen to knock on their door. So
there you go. And I would even suggest, this is like digital way to door knock, as Colin asked, which I don't even know if Colin is currently watching. Maybe he'll get this later. But on the digital way to door knock, whenever you go door knocking, you can also run a video ad in that neighborhood telling people, hey, I'm going to be door knocking on Thursday. I'm going to come by. I'm going to drop by this or that. I just want to meet you, let you know that now's a really good time. Here's why. It'll be all on the flyer. Hey, look, Colin is actually still watching. That's cool.
Hi, Colin.
So, I'm impressed that he's staying. He hasn't languished in the. So anyway,
no, don't go back to it. It's too much.
It doesn't work the second time. So anyway, that would be, in my opinion, the digital way to door knock, is to provide those resources online, and then when you show up at the door, they'll say, "Hey, I recognize you," which I've done before, and it's worked. That's worked pretty well. Yeah,
and again, they don't necessarily know that you're not the local guy. They just see your face, and then on an ad, and then they see you at their door, and they're like, "Whoa, you really are here."
We don't have anybody in our areas, quote unquote, dominating a neighborhood like that. And even when they get to 30%, they're in danger of oversaturating. You never really want to get to over 30%. When you are, then people start to see your signs everywhere, and it's a real easy rebuttal to say, well, we actually like to sell the houses. We don't like to just put a sign in the yard, so you probably don't see our sign. And so then they start to go back down to like the 20 and 15% if they don't watch it. So I wouldn't worry about somebody else in your market. You just target whatever the ideal sell price is for your area, and be efficient at it, and then you'll dominate it in no time.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. We can have a different conversation about it at a separate time. But when realtors because it happens in my markets all the time, where the sign goes in the yard, and then a week later you see the sold sign on it. But we all know it's not sold. It's just in escrow, but it's still active under contract, meaning they can take backup offers. They're still doing inspections. The appraisal has to happen. Like, that could fall out at any time. So other people that drive by that all the time, all of a sudden they see the sold sign go away, and then an open house happens again. Or that sold sign, there's one in particular I've been driving by for 2 months, and that sold sign has been sitting there. Now, it's great that he has a sign up, but Why isn't it actually closed? It's been 2.5 months. Like, what's going on?
I don't actually put the sold sign out in front of our properties because it just turns the buyers off. And it's funny. I tell my clients, I'm not going to put a sold sign or a sale pending sign in front of your house because it doesn't do anything for you. It only advertises me to your neighborhood, and I can find a different way to do that.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think it's a little bit of an archaic way to think.
Yeah. True. Be consistent. I like it. Speaking of consistency, time for the pick of the week. Oh, that was like
we almost had a
phone ring.
We almost had a sound effect actually happen accidentally by Jonathan's phone going off.
Tandem. Okay, so Dan, you're up first. What is your pick of the week?
Okay, so it's a recent thing. Not to give Colin any more shout outs. I think he's already gotten enough love on this one. But we do a lot of property video shoots, and we go big with those, and we have our film crew come out and the drone and the blah, 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 and all that stuff. And we go big, and it's super high end. And our guys at Agent Booster are amazing with what they do. But for months, we've been talking about, Jacob and I and our team have been talking about how do we just kind of get videos out with better production, not just hold the phone up in front and no, this is a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, the best phone on the market. How do we hold it up instead of just hold it up in front of us and be like, hey guys, and then talk about something? How do we get a little production value, but not, just we have more control over it. And then we also don't have to shell out the cash for it. So Colin does videos again. He's committed to do one a week, which now he's held to it. We talked about it on BMORE. He has to do it every week. Not that he hasn't been, but so I reached out to him and said, what do you use for video editing? And it's very simple and it's relatively cheap. It costs $50, and it's called CyberLink Power Director. So, and there's different versions, and there's last year's version, there's this year's version, there's an audio only editor, but I've been using it for this video for the last week and kind of messing around with it and adding this and doing that and cutting that and adding in sound and voiceovers and all that stuff. And it's a really, really cool program. And it took me, if I had just sat down, it would take me an hour and a half to get used to, but I've been working on things for 20 minutes here and then taking a day or two off and then another 25 minutes. So it's relatively easy to pick up, and the video is coming out really well. So I highly recommend it. And it was $50 to give yourself CyberLink Power Director. If I prepped for things, I would have given you a link, but I don't prep for stuff. So
CyberLink
there you go.
Power Director.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really easy to use. And it's just adds a little bit of production value. So you don't feel like, there's apps and stuff out there. There's Video Shop and Magisto and all that stuff that'll kind of do that for you. But you can't really add like the Chiron at the bottom. You can't add the little pop-ups over your head and the emojis and stuff. You can't really do all that stuff. And then it's really limited in the music that it offers you. So it's been really cool to use. And I'm going to throw that video out probably to one of our secret groups to get some feedback on it. And then I'll publish it tomorrow or Friday on my page. So it's been really cool to use.
There you go. All right, everybody click the video. Don't do that. It doesn't work like that. But there is a link.
Why isn't it working?
From Colin in his that's a link from Colin in the comments there. So there you go. So
thank you, Colin.
Put an affiliate link up there, Colin, that we can make money on the deal. Okay.
He needs to grow a beard so he can be on the show more.
That's true. Okay, so for my pick of the week.
Yep.
This is awesome. Okay, I'll try to. Ready? I'm gonna make this big screen so you can see.
Whiteboard.
What? I have my whole wall covered in whiteboard.
Now, I've been wanting to ask you, is that a whiteboard paint or is that a whiteboard that they cut to fit your?
That is a whiteboard paint. So the company I'm working with here locally does see you later, Colin. The company that I'm working here with locally is CertaPro, but it's a locally owned group. I don't know if that's out where you are. It's also a Nashville franchise, but they have something called whiteboard paint. And so at my old office, I had these whiteboards that were like leaning up everywhere. And I'd go to Home Depot and I would just get the shower wall stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those like 4x8 pieces of flexible.
Yeah.
And so I would just put that on the wall and go with it. But this has been like a game changer because obviously I've been taking notes like crazy. Well, here's the whole thing. Here's the entire article read about. Can you see that? That's all about the interest rates and the Barry Habib and the QT easing and all that stuff. So
preparation,
I just take notes, stream of consciousness, and then I am able to just kind of work off that on my computer and see the notes and do what I need to. If somebody calls me or says something real fast, I just literally take a pen and write it on the wall. It's so cool. I love it. And then
you don't have to scramble for paper and oh my gosh. Yeah.
No, there's no paper in my office. So,
and also you're not wasting paper.
Right. Because I'm doing it for the green thing. That's right. I remember now.
For the green wall behind you.
Yeah. So the green wall behind me, that's another paint. That is a chroma key green. And that means that we can, here, I should move this way, maybe. So that wall is a green screen. Maybe I should do like a tour one day on BMORE, give you a tour of the office. So that's our green screen, which allows us to be wherever we need to be. And then let's see this, where's my, okay, right there.
Those are those
panels.
Yeah.
So those sound panels will go on the wall behind me right now. Yeah. And that'll help deaden the sound and give less echo for BMORE and some of the other stuff that we do. Jonathan Yotis says, plus every kid's dream is to write on the wall. It's so true. I would say that's probably Jonathan's dream still. So,
that's a really good point. So you can be a grown-up and write on the wall and be like, nope, it's supposed to be there.
That's right. And I would suggest every parent not do this in their home, though. Like we had thought about, there's on a remodel, there's going to be an end of one cabinet. And we thought, well, what if we just use like a whiteboard paint or a chalkboard paint for the end of that cabinet? But then I got to thinking that really literally teaches our kids that they can write everywhere. That's not what I want. And so don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, because it's a little difficult saying, hey, feel free, go ahead, write on the wall.
Write on this one little section and don't write anywhere else in our entire house. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So there's no self-control with children.
Nice.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching the show. Dan, before we get out of here, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me physically in Claremont, California. So if you want to go grab lunch or something, just hit me up. In the celestial plane, is it the celestial plane or is it the interweb plane? I am D Ludwig Rocks everywhere. So at D Ludwig Rocks. If you want to find me on Pinterest, D Ludwig Rocks, Etsy, Pinterest, anything, I'm D Ludwig Rocks. MapQuest, I have a profile on MapQuest now. That's a new thing coming back. Everywhere, just find me at D Ludwig Rocks.
There you go. And I am not D Ludwig Rocks. That would be funny if I actually got a screen that said not D Ludwig Rocks. I'm totally gonna do that. So,
and then I'll get one that says not Razorback.
Not Razorback. So I am Razorback just about everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, and you can also find our company. I'm with Pixel Properties. It's a new little brokerage here in town. So doing some cool stuff. But that is that's where you can find us.
And to go to the Nerd Boys.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Dan, for joining me. Thanks to all of you for your comments. We love the comments. We love the interaction. So please keep it up. Even after we get off this thing, we will respond to you whenever we can. If you have any suggestions for the show or if you have any news that you want us to be sure to cover, you can just send them to us, comment on here, say, hey, did you see that article? Or you can send it to us on Facebook or wherever. But please, if you like this thing, please share it because that's how we find out if it's actually worth it. She said boutique. Very good. It is a boutique brokerage, kind of, sort of.
Well, but wait, when we get towards Halloween, it's going to be a boutique. Just a heads up.
And so on that terrible joke, bye, everybody.